We are Healing by Growing Farms, and here we are conducting farming and growing for a cause in order to be able to provide hope and purpose to brain injury and trauma survivors. And we sort of engage individuals as well as the community by making sure that everything that we grow goes back to the community in our farm to home doorstep delivery program. As far as what we grow, we have a whole bunch of things. So we have a whole bunch of varieties, from fruit to herbs to medicinal plants. We have also a lot of nuts, a lot of veggies, and we also grow a lot of our livestock feed so that we can minimize on that cost. So in order for people to find us online, it will be, the best place would be our social media outlets by going to Healing by Growing Farms. Because when you go there, it points you out to everything else, or by emailing us at healingbygrowingoutreach@gmail.com. Our property here is 0.10, so a very, very, very tiny space, but we have maximize all of the space. One of the things that is really, really important for me is to be able to, when I designed and planned out the space, everything was with a strategy that everything worked multi-purpose, and that we maximize every inch of the space. And so here we grow vertically. We do hydroponics, we do aquaponics, we have a greenhouse, we grow in pots, we grow in the ground, we grow in raised beds. We grow from hanging baskets. We try to use every modality that we can around using the space to grow. The difference between our growing space and most growing spaces is that 80% of our growing space is 32 inches or more above ground level, making a raised bed an elevated raised bed that becomes ADA accessible for people who have limitations with movement or physical movement. And it makes it accessible for wheelchairs. So we have specific wheelchair height raised beds. We also have raised beds that are for people that they could just work around if they have a walker in front of them, or if they have a cane that they have to put aside. And we are just starting to build a green top growing space. We're going to experiment with that in our bunny hut, with the goal is to have a green roof and a green top to utilize that space. And if it works in our bunny hut, we're also going to do it in our chicken coop and in our barn. So we have over 35 growing beds in the property. So all the metal beds are Vigo garden beds, and they are supposed to last for a very, very long time. And they're better than wood beds because you don't have to change them every so often when the wood rots. So the metal beds are rust-free, they're very lightweight, and they come unassembled in boxes. And then you have to be able to put them together. These are, when we got them, these were $3.89 each. Now our wooden wheelchair accessible beds, those were made by reclaimed wood, and also by using some of the Yukon solid ground cedar planks that they gave us. The Healing by Growing Farms won the Yale University Civic Innovation First Prize for being a therapeutic farm that gives back to the community, and we were awarded $8,000. And so that $8,000 was instrumental in helping us with contribute to the parts that we were missing for the greenhouse, for other metal beds, for our fruit orchard, for some of the soil and things of that. We are very blessed here that we get about 10 hours of straight volunteer time a week on an average in a 3-month period. And once a year we get about 60 volunteers as part of a Yale Dwight Hall community give back services, and that's once a year for 3 full days. And they help with the do-it-yourself projects that I have assigned or designed for them. As part of that, they learn about community, they learn about urban farming, they learn about healing spaces, and about green, the green environment and their role that they play in it. Do-it-yourself has been very instrumental for me in the farm. There's a chicken coop, and attached to that chicken coop there's a chicken run, and I actually designed and built that on my own. 90% of it. I did have some folks who helped me sort of lift up the heavy wall frames once I created it, once I built the roof. help put it up there, and some other heavy items. But it was one of the first projects that I did after my brain injury. At that point, I felt like I was useless and worthless. I couldn't do anything. And so I had to challenge myself to do something big, and I did. But I've also taken on projects of building our first compost bins that were all made out of wood on pallets. But for me, one of the things that was really helpful is Solid Ground was offering a basic carpentry class a couple years ago. So then I came back from that class, I literally started the next day building the coop. And it took me a few months because of my own limitations, but it was really, really good. Do it yourself is something that as a farmer and an urban farmer, you really need to strive to do, because it gets very costly very, very quickly. Some helpful resources for me: Cornell Extension. I use the Yukon Ag Extension. I also use a lot of resources that the NRCS provided and USDA provided. And so those were the four sort of bulk areas that I actually got all my information from, because they had very specific information about urban farming. I do have a mentor who's a farmer out in the Midwest. Her name is Carrie, and she has been she's a bison farmer, and she also has chickens and does education and stuff like that. And she's been really, really instrumental in the recent months or year that we have been working together, sort of helping me shape certain things. So as an urban farmer, one of the biggest challenges that we have is that we are so close to our neighbors. And so we have to be really, really mindful of air pollution. We have to be conscious of noise. And so as an urban farmer, it's a balance between you and your community. And that community starts with your neighbors who are right next door to you. Our future projects, we have a lot of projects bubbling up for this fall, this winter, and spring of 2024. But our most immediate project is we're going to be adding an irrigation system in all our property. We'll also be building, in the near future, one of our projects in our farm will be to build a wash, prep, and storage space as part of a viability grant that we just got with the Connecticut Department of Agriculture. We are planning an extension of this farm to identify 40 acres of land minimum so that we can have an extended retreat center. Where we start people off here at this farm and then build them out to a bigger space so that people can actually live for a period of 6 to 8 weeks in the space, become growers and farmers. We want to do some skill building and some healing in a magnitude of space. For me, one of the areas that I believe that urban farmers can thrive more in is by providing mentor-to-mentor urban settings. I would have loved being partnered with another urban farmer, not a hobby farmer, but an urban farmer that was in alignment with what I want to do or similar, so that I would have been able to learn those things. Because while I got experiences working with other farmers at a large level, and a lot of things do transfer, it is very different when you have to design a space that is 0.1 of an acre versus 3 acres or 10 or 20 or 50. And so that's why I want to make that available here. So if anybody wants to be a grower and urban farmer for a tiny space, even if it's just a balcony or patio in their home, I want to give them the tools to show them that they could do it here, practice with me, show them be successful, and then they could carry that on. Some advice for new growers that live in urban and suburban areas like I do. You could grow in very, very small spaces and graduate based on your need, your desire, because growing your own nutritious food and watching the process grow is a process that you can read about it, anybody could tell you about it, but it's not the same until you actually experience putting a seed in the ground and watching it come to life.